time today has been exciting to see what's happening here in Hyde Park, but also what's happening in the city. I want to thank John Barros and his team, Alberto and Crystal, from our Office of Economic Development. We didn't have an Office of Economic Development in the city of Boston until 2014. We had different city departments that did some economic development in different areas. And in 2014, we created the Cabinet of Economic Development, which John is the first chief of that cabinet. And we started to build out, really thinking about the city and how do we sustain the city moving forward and making sure we diversify the businesses that we have in the city. Boston's always had that, but we've done well without having that office. And this year, what we did was with small businesses, we had small business in 3 different areas. We had the Department of Neighborhood Development, we had it in the Office of Small Business, and we had the VRA, formerly known as the VRA, and we put that under John's shop as well, because really thinking about how do we grow a city, making sure that we have the right people in place and the right business models in place to move businesses forward. In 2014, just go a couple notes. In 2014, we had about roughly nearly 8,000 manufacturing jobs in the city of Boston. That's about 1.1% of the city's payroll and 2% of the high-tech jobs. But that's been relatively flat. And something that we have to do more of is how do we attract some more manufacturing jobs to our city. I was talking to Councilor McCarthy as we're walking around the park, and we were saying that, 50 years ago, Hyde Park was one of those areas that almost a lot of major companies were here and a lot of people were employed. And there's no reason why we can't have that same thing happening today in 2016, except the business model is a little different. I've met some business companies that are here that have 3 people working in their shop. We're doing glass manufacturing, some woodworking. I joked about the caramel candies over there. When I was running for mayor and John was running for mayor, Robbie Consalvo was giving out these incredible candies with stickers on them. And I would literally take the candy out of the bag and leave it in the bag because the stick was on it. But you think of the great things that happens in our city, and what we're trying to do is work to make sure that we can get the story right and move people forward. Early 2015, I had a chance to go over to New York. I toured Industry City in Brooklyn, and I walked into a factory that was make-a-bot printer. And I looked around and I saw a bunch of young people working there, predominantly kids of color, predominantly black kids from the neighborhood. And we did the tour and we're talking to them, to the workers and everything else. And then when everyone went in the other room, I went back into the room and I went up to the kids and I asked them, do you like working here? And they loved it, because it was a skill that they weren't able to express themselves ever before. And now they were making money, making a printer that they were very familiar with, but also proud of the work, and there was opportunities for growth. The reason why I say that is there's no reason why Boston, we don't do better when it comes to manufacturing, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we lay down the foundation, the groundwork to bring more companies in our city. We have great companies in this room alone. We have some great startup companies and companies that have been around for a long time. The Dorchester Brewing Company is one of those companies that opened a facility on Mass Ave in Dorchester. We have C.M. Adams here as well. C.M. Adams is another local company in Jamaica Plain, and all other businesses here. So we have a real opportunity here in the city to really take manufacturing and grow the business community bigger. I'm here to announce Manufacturing Month for the month of October. But what I'd like to do is ask Timmy if he wants to say a few words, and we'd love to answer any questions you have. I'm going to bring John Barros up here from Economic Development, so it's more of a conversation if you want to do that. Timmy wants to say a word.
Just quickly, thank you, Mayor, for being here. And hi to everybody. I know a lot of people here. I do business actually with a lot of people that are here. We have a wonderful neighborhood. I grew up right over the bridge, so I'm very, very familiar with this. As I said to the mayor, we were walking in, this used to be Gold Seal rubber when I was growing up, so I bought many, many sneakers here, so I know all about the industry that went here. But I want to congratulate Mayor Walsh because he did create an entire office that does nothing but focus on you. And he put a wonderful person in charge, in John Barros. He picked very well. So John does a phenomenal job. And when you walk into a business like we did earlier and you hear, your restrictions were tough, but I've never seen a process move so fast. That's what this is all about, is opening businesses as quickly as possible, knocking down the barricades that slow people down, because John and the mayor and myself, we have a very good idea about how long that you can stay down before you open a business, and we know that window is short. and Chief Barrows has made a commitment to make sure that that window from when you want to move in to when you're moved in is as short as possible. So I think, you know, I congratulate the mayor, and certainly Chief Barrows are doing a wonderful job, and you can see as this park is booming today. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Dave. One more thing before I go for questions. We're doing a master planning right now, the city of Boston, Imagine Boston 2030. We're looking at different pieces of our city. And when the plan, as the plan comes out, you should be tied into the city for it, because we have a large part of our plan is about how do we build out a manufacturing industry in the future of the city of Boston. So we're really focused on our master plan about jobs to the future. Manufacturing is a big piece of that. We also obviously have biotech, high tech, all those different places, but manufacturing, I think, is a key component that in our area, in our city, where we have talent and, you know, a lot of people. There's a really ability for us to capture some of that manufacturing that we had years ago back. So we're not giving it up to any city or state in the country. We're going after it. We're going after other countries as well to bring it back to our city. So with that, let's open up for questions. And like I said, John, Chief of Economic Development, Timmy, City Council.
Hi. First of all, thank you for coming up today. Just a quick question with respect to running a startup company. Things are going really fast. The information, is there an office that you can go to find out? And what about tax credits? What about training subsidies? Those kind of things. That's something when you run the startup and you go from 20 people to 50 people almost overnight. A lot to do. You just, you know, it doesn't come top of mind. And so I'm just curious as to what might be available in the resources for us.
Yeah, so I appreciate the question, and standing right behind you is a gentleman with some information on the Workforce Development Fund. Perfect setup. He's got a piece of paper with how you can apply for workforce development, and that goes to everybody here in the room. I know you know Alberto, you know our office. The mayor put together an office for it to be a one-stop shop, right? For you to go in and ask your question. Look, I know there's some folks in here who, some folks in here who are buying some property and looking to do some investments. Let's sit down and let's talk about what's available. Let's talk about the incentives that the mayor has in place. Let's talk about funds that we have in place for workforce development, for investment in property, investment in equipment. The city has some tools available. We've got a fabulous relationship with the state. So there's some other tools available. We'd like to be the people that help coordinate it for you.
Thank you. Yep.
I'm on this one, Bob. All right. So as I just said, I live in Reeville, so I know what Walcott Square has become. There's a couple things that have been added to the mix. Way apps have now brought people from Milton, Canton, and everywhere else off of 138 and are cutting through Reedville. I know that it is quite a show up on the bridge as well as Sprague Street. So the developments that you're talking about, there are a couple of developments that are looking. There's a development on Sprague Street here that they're kicking around. There's one by the bridge where the gentleman already bought that land by the bridge, adding apartment buildings. The problem that we have is as you come down to Ponce Valley Parkway, that's a state road. Then you come underneath the bridge, you get onto Hyde Park Ave, that then becomes a city road. Then you take the left over the bridge, and the bridge is a state road. Then you come back over. If you go right, if you go left, you're in the city. If you go right, you're back in the state. So there's communication between BTD and MassDOT that needs to happen. Walcott Square, in my opinion, we've actually met. I have a meeting right after this with American City Coalitions, cities, talking about this. And all of the packages that any of the developers have come to sit down with us, I've told them point blank, you know, a mitigation package regarding traffic. A traffic study has to be done. Walcott Square, those lights in Walcott Square probably were put in 1963. The two buses that line up next to Jerry Hurley Park, if you're familiar with the passive park to your right as you go underneath the bridge, to get out, they take an illegal turn across 2 lanes of traffic, generally blocking the box from anybody coming the other way. Traffic's now blocked all the way down to Truman Highway at times. Most people are dodging the square. So when I talk to the business owners like Richie at Richie's Market, or Cappy, Ray Cap at Cappy's, they're concerned that people aren't coming to the area because they're dodging the area, and that's a problem for us. So we have taken a look at when the bridge was rebuilt 10 years ago, we did ask the state to run lines underneath it, so the infrastructure is there to light the bridge, both sides of the bridge. The only way that works, though, is if Walcott Square gets new lights that talk to the lights on Father Hyde Bridge, and Father Hyde Bridge talk to the Sprague Street, if we do light the intersection up here. So, long story short, it's a big answer for a big problem.
And in a bigger way, I mean, across the city of Boston, there's a lot of concern about traffic and cars. We have more cars, we have more people, we have more businesses. That's, you know, so we're working on Go Boston 2030, which is a master plan of transportation in the city, how we move transportation along. Some of the developments are going to be happening in neighborhoods. People don't want them because it's going to bring additional traffic. I would argue that sometimes bringing additional people brings more people for businesses. So it's kind of a catch-22. So we are looking at traffic in the entire city. But this particular spot, there is some challenges with the city and state and jurisdictional lines and things like that. And we're also looking at our own transportation internally to see, eventually we will be upgrading our technology and our system. So the Waze app, which is bringing traffic into the neighborhood, we're using that app as well to mitigate traffic solutions. So we did it on the seaport, on the waterfront. So we have to continue to work at that. And then we have to get bicyclists and pedestrians and cars to all get along. Right now it doesn't happen. You're either a bike person or you're not. So some of you might be car people, and the people that work for you are bike people. It is a problem. Any other questions?
I have a question just kind of in reference to the bridge. We have a lot of employees who don't drive to work, and there's been a lot of thought in the past years that the MBTA or whatever responsibility it is doesn't clean the bridge. And what ends up happening is people who are walking to work are having to walk in the street. Then the traffic is doubled, and it becomes a really dangerous situation. My concern is for the employees, because you're getting to work already frustrated, disgruntled. And then how can you be happy about getting to your job every day? How can we retain people at a company who has trouble finding labor in the first place? It seemed like a good time to bring it up in that area.
It's an excellent question. I was in public works for 10 years before this. Sometimes I miss the money, but the overtime for snow anyway. The bridges here, Sprague's, as well as the Father Hyde Bridge, are state-owned bridges. So the state's required to do them. But after major events, District 8 Yard, where the snow operations out of, we'll try to send guys up with snow blowers to get them done, because we can't have the answer of your people are walking in the street. You call me and I say, well, it's not our fault because it's the state's. That's not the answer you're looking for, not as a business owner or a person who lives here. So we try to get to them. I think that this year, these last couple of years, we have a much better relationship with the State House, with Mass DOT, and they've been sending their people out a little bit better. I know during the 118-inch snowstorm, it was what it was. I mean, there was just no way. The guys were exhausted and shoveling snow. It was a long, long winter. But we'll keep an eye on that. Certainly take my number. And the ultimate number is 311. The mayor has put in a 311 system. If you dial 311, it goes directly to the mayor's office, and it literally is a clearinghouse for every aches, pains, and problem you could possibly have in the city. And they'll get to the yard, and we'll get it cleared so people can get to work.
There was a question over here? Yeah.
Well, as a small business manufacturer, we rely on our entry-level, lowest paid workers really to be the lifeblood of our production. And we looked at the impact of the rising minimum wage in the state on what it will entry-level workers, it could ultimately just increase the minimum wage and eliminate our bottom line altogether. So what do? We raise our prices. Ultimately, that puts a burden on our customers. It would be nice to hear some dialogue about ways that the state and the city can help to offset and have some discussion about credits that help take the burden off of small businesses to hold the wall burden of increasing.
Let me just, there's programs out there that businesses can tap into, but I support raising the minimum wage $15 an hour because I support, if somebody can't raise their family on $11 an hour. And in Seattle, Washington, when Seattle was raised the minimum wage in the city to $15 an hour, companies like, we're going to leave, we're going to move out, this is the end of the world. And what actually happened was it's actually gotten more people coming to the city and more businesses starting up. And I think that that's one of the tough things that we have here. You have universal health care here in the Commonwealth. If you have, I think it's 11 or more employees, you have to provide insurance. If not, the state, they work on the state. I don't know, I know I've had this battle, and I know you're in the business and you might be able to tell me differently, but right now I think the minimum wage is $11.50 an hour. I don't think $15 an hour precludes anybody, unless you have a shop of 1,000 people making minimum wage. I don't think it precludes anyone from working, but there are programs in place. We have programs in the city that you can tap into. We have workforce development money that you can tap into. Tax credits, there are some tax credits out there depending on the situation. There's opportunities for you to work, and the state is working very closely with the city on making sure providing tax credits and opportunities. There are programs through the D&D. I think they're going to shift over to John Shaw eventually. We have upgrades for facilities. We have programs that can help you with your actual space that you're building. And there's a lot of things that we can do to offset what would be a $3 an hour per employee minimum wage increase. Right now, the state, we don't have the ability in Boston to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour because it's a state law. The state is going to contemplate it, but I personally don't think the state's going to get anywhere near $15 an hour in the next legislative term. I think it's $11 an hour. It goes to $12 next year. 11 of next January, so it's 10 now. 11. So it's $10 an hour. And again, when you talk about workers, I mean, and your other future businesses, we need to pay people because they can't afford to live in the city. So part of your problem, I think you were talking about getting workers, is you don't have workers that live in the city. They can't afford to. Nobody can afford to live in the city on $10 an hour anywhere in the city of Boston. The highest increase in taxes this year for real estate tax, where the tax property went up the most for this year, was Roxbury, Massachusetts. Last year was the Back Bay and Brighton and Southie. This year it was Roxbury. So people are literally being priced out of the city. So we're becoming a city where our workforce is living in Randolph and in other places. We got to try and keep the people in the city. So I would suggest you reach out to our office and we could probably help you with that. How many employees do you have?
75.
Yeah, so if you...
Yeah, we have to be followed. We want our employees to have the highest quality of life that they can have. And we are supportive. We don't pay lower end of the minimum wage whenever we can. It affects really, the seasonal workers, the guys who work at the contract jobs. They have the toughest time. And it's great. It's great that this is an initiative that government is working on. It's great to see more discussion about how to not put all that burden on the engine of our economy and small business, and have better offsets.
But we have offsets, so I would suggest you reach out to these guys.
So the mayor has put together an advisory committee on this, so you can advise them on this. It has business, it has academic representation, etc. I'd love to host a meeting here and hear from the businesses here about things we can do to help with the transformation and the change, moving minimum wage. So perhaps we'll work with you and others, and we'll host something here and have you guys advise us, so we can advise the mayor and begin to continue dialogue with the state on how this thing can happen.
And what other programs we can use to offset some of the costs you have. Yeah. So if there's a way for us to shift some things around to offset some of the costs you might have, if there's something that we can do, we'd love to do it.
What's the city's vision as it relates to manufacturing in the Newmarket area And are there any other geographic areas in the city that you're focusing
I
on?
mean, we had this conversation. I mean, the hard part with Boston right now is that there are not a lot of areas for manufacturing. You know, the South Boston waterfront, we have some possibilities there. They're going to release a visioning plan very shortly. They've been working on now for a couple of years, looking at the waterfront. New market area, I mean, there's a lot of conversation what's going to happen with that area. Out here in Hyde Park, some of these old big warehouses, there are a lot of people want to build housing there. We're constantly keeping an eye on where do we bring in the manufacturing. You know, so I think you're going to see manufacturing spread throughout the city. I don't think you'll have an area. Plus, I don't necessarily, we used to have areas of manufacturing. And then when manufacturing went away, those areas sat vacant for decades. And I think that if you can diversify a community and put residential manufacturing in, because people want to work near where they live. And if there's an opportunity for us to look at some of these bigger buildings, we can. For example, on Dudley Street, there's a piano building. I don't know what to call it a building. John and myself have been trying forever to try, well, John forever because he was the head of the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative. Myself, since I've been the mayor, how do you fill this big, empty warehouse building on Dudley on the Fairmont line? So I think you're going to see manufacturing spread throughout the city. It won't be in the New Market area only. It won't be just in Hyde Park. It'll be spread throughout the city, particularly with the Fairmont line that has come through now. You have a real ability to build manufacturing around the transit station where people can take the train rather than have to worry about bridges and things like that.
Yeah, so there's a real commitment to manufacturing here. You're going to hear it again and again. I know you know it. And so in New Market and other places here in Hyde Park, the question is how do you coexist, and what are the ways that you create these transitional zones, right? So you can have residential next to manufacturing. And something I know we're going to talk a little bit more in the New Market area about because of some pressures, right? And so we're going to make sure we're protecting manufacturing while the city's growing, right? Diversifying the locations that we have it so that it's not, one place, is everything, and if it goes, everything goes, right? So we'll have to talk to you some more about it, Travis, and see what else we can do.
So,
just one add-on to that. It was fortuitous that the train came by as it did. And I know you don't have control over it, but certainly any pressure the city can put on, we were talking to Councilor McCarthy a couple of minutes ago, on the MBTA. You talk about, work very closely on the Fairmont line. Right now, the time is not frequent enough, and Hyde Park now has to pay $6.50 per ride to get in and out. And it just, in terms of all these companies that we want to come down to rebuild to Hyde Park, we really need to make it so that it's more of a transit.
Yeah, we had held a hearing, sponsored a hearing, and I co-sponsored it with Michelle Wu regarding specifically the different zones. And the basic math here for the regional station is that if you travel from here downtown, it costs you just a little bit north of $4,000 a year to go to work. So if you're working for $35,000, $40,000 and you're spending 10% just to get to work, it just doesn't make sense at all. And the fact that the parking lot is 80% empty all the time because they're whacking you for $4 to park there. So there is, we have no jurisdiction over the MBTA, but we'll continue to put pressure. I mean, I always joke that it takes an act of Congress to move a bus stop. I don't know what it's going to take to get the rates lowered, but they absolutely should.
that fight's been going on for a long time. I remember when, as a state representative, when the Fairmont line came to the 4 Dorchester stations, that's where the cutoff was. There was the fight whether that would be a lower rate or the $6 rate, and then I know that Robbie, Brian Timmy, and Andrew Scotch and those guys were fighting for it. I'm meeting with Brian Shortsleeve today. He's the new the director of the MBTA. I want to talk to him about some of the ideas that I think the T needs to do. They need ridership, and I think if they lowered the price and made the parking free, they'd get more people taking the train. So rather than have a train that's half empty when it comes out of Hyde Park, you'd have a full train and make the same amount of money. Just like the late night tea service. They weren't making money on it, but over time, more ridership will bring people to it and more revenue. So I think they have to start thinking long-term, not short-term. So I'm meeting with Brian today in my office to talk about a few things that they're doing at the T to try and, because I think as the mayor and as elected officials and as a city, we want to be able to get people on public transportation around the city at an affordable price and also get them in an efficient way. So it's important. Boston generates 20% of all tax revenue for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Our city more than doubles in the course of the day, people coming in to work here and going home at night. So our city services double. From September until May of any given year, 250,000 college students come to our city. So we grow as a city every single year at different times, and we need a system. In some ways, I wish we had more control. We pay $80 million as well into the T to subsidize it. So we need to make sure that the services get better. When I say we, taxpayers pay $80 million of subsidies to keep the T going from the city of Boston to the MBTA. Well, let me just say one last thing. I'm here to announce that this is Manufacturing Month in the city of Boston. So I know many of you do it already, so I want to thank you. It's really about highlighting and promoting our businesses. If you have ideas or if you have complaints on anything, let us know. We can't get better if we don't know what we're doing wrong, and we can't get better if you have some great ideas that we could learn from it and do. So please use this as a resource. John's office is, you can call John's office. You can call Dave McKay, who's the liaison for Hyde Park right here. If you have a Hyde Park specific issue, you can call Councilor McCarthy's office. We work very closely together, all of us. So fill us in on stuff. Don't let it linger, because it could be a quick fix. So you might have something with a business that you need something. We might have it. If not, we might need to create it. So please use this as a resource. And I want to thank you for allowing us to come in today and say a few words.